Dear students, in the today's lecture, we are going to learn shock waves, how to generate shock waves, the properties and applications of shock waves. Before going to the concept of shock waves, we are going to learn what is Mach number. For suppose an object is moving with velocity VO in a medium, and velocity of sound in that medium is Vs. The ratio of velocity of object to the velocity of sound is known as a Mach number, V naught by Vs. Based on the Mach number value, their different regimes are classified. If Mach number is less than 1, that means velocity of object is less than velocity of sound. That regime is named as subsonic. So if m less than 1, that is a subsonic. What is the meaning of this one? Velocity of object is less than velocity of sound. For example, all cars, all the vehicles, they are moving with velocity less than velocity of sound. So those are comes under the subsonic regime. If m greater than 1, those are called supersonic. That means if object velocity is more than the velocity of sound, then there comes under the regime of supersonic. For example, the bullets coming out from modern at present, what are the modern guns are there? From all the modern rifles, the bullets are coming with velocity more than the velocity of sound. That's why those are comes under the supersonic. And jet fights, they are moving with velocity more than velocity of sound. So the jet fights also comes under the regime of supersonic. And the bullets nowadays, almost they're having the Mach number 3. Now there is a regime is there that falls in the gray area. There is some portion in the subsonic and some portion in the supersonic. That regime we named as a transonic. Is a very interesting one. For example, if you take a rotor blades of a helicopter, the blades, the length is very high. If you observe the velocity of this rotor blade, inner area velocity is lower than the outer area. So if you observe this blade, the total blade completes one revolution in a particular time, but inner parts are traveling less distance when compared with the outer parts. So that's why outer parts velocity is higher than the inner parts. The outer parts are fall in the regime of supersonic. Inner parts are fall in the regime of subsonic. In this case, what happens? A lot of pressure difference occurs along this blade that leads to unwanted vibration in the blades that leads to some accidents also. And one more regime is there, that is m greater than 5. That means the objects are moving with velocity 5 times more than the velocity of sound. Those are fall in the regime of hypersonic. At present in India, Saurya missiles are traveling with this velocity. Now we are going to learn about another parameter related to Mach number, that is Mach angle. What is a Mach angle? For suppose an object is moving with velocity less than velocity of sound. That means that is in the regime of subsonic. Then the wave fronts, that means the acoustic wave fronts coming out from the that object, those are looking like this. They are looking like concentric circles. Or these are wavefronts coming out from the object which is traveling with velocity less than velocity of sound. The object is remains inside these wavefronts because velocity of sound is higher than the velocity of object. For suppose an object is moving with velocity more than the velocity of sound. That means the object in the regime of supersonic. In this case, the wavefronts are like this. Now, if you draw a common tangent to all these wavefronts, they will form one cone here. So, this is the cone formed by the common tangents drawn to these wavefronts. The semi-vertex angle of this cone is known as Mach angle. It is represented by using mu. Mach angle mu equal to sin inverse of 1 by m. Now we are going to discuss what are shock waves. Shock waves are high pressure waves. These are formed when there is a abnormal changes occur in the pressure. This kind of violent changes in the pressure occurs during the earthquakes or lightning. So those are responsible for generation of shock waves here. Any fluid that propagates at supersonic speeds gives rise to shock waves. Shock waves are produced in nature during the earthquakes, lightning. Shock waves can be produced by sudden dissipation of mechanical energy in a medium enclosed in a small space. These are the phenomena we are using to generate the shock waves in our laboratory that we are going to discuss. And for strong shock waves, Mach number is high. Mach number is always more than 1. For a very strong shock waves, Mach number is maybe 4 or 5 like that. And for weak shock waves, that Mach number is low but more than 1. Now we are going to discuss properties of shock waves. Shock waves are propagated with velocity more than the velocity of sound. And their speed increases with the amplitude rise. Mach number is always more than 1. Shock waves obeys the laws of fluid dynamics. The intensity of shock waves decreases faster than the ordinary acoustic waves. That means there is a sudden fall occurs in this amplitude with a short distance travel here. The variation of this amplitude is proportional to 1 by r square. That r is the distance traveled by these shock waves. That's why intensity is fall very faster than ordinary acoustic waves. That's why after in short period they are coming to the ordinary acoustic range. And shock waves alter the mechanical, electrical, and thermal properties of solids. Now we are going to discuss applications of shock waves. Before going to the applications of shock waves, now I am showing one method we are using to generate shock waves in our laboratory. This one is designed by KPJ Reddy, and this instrument is named as a Reddy's tube. The Reddy's tube is a cylindrical structure here. It is made up of stainless steel. One end is closed here, and other end there is a piston is arranged here. And the length of this tube is 1 meter. Diameter is 30 mm. Exactly at center, that means 50 center from the closed end or 50 centimeter from this piston end. And you have to keep one diaphragm. The diaphragm is made up of a thin foil of paper or aluminum foil. And the first portion is known as driver section, and the second portion is known as driven section. Both are filled with gases. The gas filled in this section is known as driver gas. The gas filled in this section is known as a driven gas. We are keeping one pressure gauge before the diaphragm that used to measure the pressure in the driver section. And in the driven section, we are keeping two sensors near to the closed end. Those are named as S1 and S2. Those are piezo sensors. So these sensors are used to find the pressure generated by these shock waves. And S1, S2 both are separated by a distance of 7 centimeters. That is 70 mm separation between these S1, S2. That's why we can measure how the intensity will fall when the shock waves are moving from the generated area. So now working. The working here is when the piston is moved inside, when the piston is moved inside, then what happens? The pressure in the driver section is rising. When the pressure in the driver section rises to certain value that can rupture the diaphragm, then what happens? The gas in the driver section is rush up into the driven section. Because of that, foil is ruptured, so the hole is formed in this diaphragm. Then the gas inside the driver region is rush up into the driven section. And because of the presence of gas already in the driven section, so then what happens? More pressure is generated. When these are reaching the closure end here, then reflected back. Because of this reflection also, more pressure generated and temperature also raised. In this way, shock waves are generated in this region. The pressure generated by these shock waves can be estimated by using these sensors S1 and S2. S2 is tells the pressure at the closed end, and that may be very high. And when the shock waves are moving from that region, then what happens? There is a fall in the amplitude. That means there is a fall in the intensity. That intensity can be estimated with the distance by measuring the pressure by using S2. So that is a working of a Reddy's tube. Now we are going to discuss different applications of a Reddy's tube. These different applications of shock waves. You know, shock waves are having applications in different fields, in engineering field, in the industry, and in medical field also. So now we are going to discuss a few of applications in the different fields here. One application in the medical field is lithotripsy. What is this lithotripsy is? You know, because of accumulation of calcium or minerals and in the kidneys of human beings, stones are formed. Most of the human beings are facing this problem, kidney stones. If stone size is less than 5 mm, it will come out through the urinary tract system, no problem. But if the size is more than 5 mm, it creates a lot of pain. At that time, if you break that kidney stone into small pieces and size is less than 5 mm, then those stones will come out through the urinary tract system. So for that purpose, we are using shock waves. By using shock waves, we can fragment kidney stones. So then the small pieces of these stones will come out through the urinary tract. That phenomenon is called lithotripsy. And shock waves also used in orthotripsy. So we are knowing most of the people are facing the knee pains. The knee pains because of improper flow of blood to the tissues in the knee joints. If you want to regenerate the tissues at knee joints, you have to increase the blood flow to the blood flow to those tissues. To enhance the blood flow to the tissues and regenerate those tissues, we are using shock waves. By using shock waves, we can enhance the blood supply to the tissues at knee joints. Then the knee pains can be overcome. In that process called orthotripsy. And another application of shock waves in the medical field is they are used for cancer therapy. In this cancer therapy, they are used for drug delivery. These shock waves are used for drug delivery during in the cancer therapy. And shock waves also used for cell culture. For cell culture, we have to inject the DNA into the cells. That injection of DNA into the cells without destruction, we can do with the shock waves. By using shock waves, we can inject the DNA into the cells without any damage in the DNA. And for wood preservation, we can use shock waves. Actually, for preservation of wood, we are immersing the wood in the liquid by keeping some chemicals in that liquid or in water by adding some chemicals in that water for years or months. But by using shock waves, we can easily inject into the wood so the wood can be preserved by injecting the chemical into the wood. That can be done by using shock waves. In pencil industry also, we are using these shock waves. That is also for this injection of chemicals into the wood. And treatment of dry bore wells. By sending shock waves, so what we'll do, we can clear the blockages and we can rejuvenate the bore wells. For that purpose also we can use the shock waves. I think you got idea about what are shock waves and what are the properties and applications and Mach number making. Thank you for listening. In the next class, we are going to discuss about elastic properties of materials. That is module 2. Thank you.